Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me. Just a quick little video here talking about some of the Shin Gojira, Shin Godzilla, basically concept art leaks or whatever you want to call them from the concept art book that's being released. A lot of them showing up online, raising some interesting questions with the way the movie could have gone and the way that the sequel, if one does end up being okayed to move forward, actually happens. And first off is something that doesn't really make sense for the video right now, but I'll get back to that later, and that is the concept art of what the first/second form of Godzilla could have looked like, may have looked like, basically the Kamada-kun. Definitely looking a lot more like aquatic in these pictures here on the left. He does kind of remind me of more like almost like a whale and a lizard at the same time, as opposed to just the lizard that we got that came on land, if this is supposed to be Form 2, or if this was supposed to be the Form 1 looked like originally, then that would have been interesting before it was able to come out of the water. But if you remember back not too long ago, we have that set of the 4 versions of Shin Godzilla coming out, the little figures, forms 1 through 4, and Form 1, there's actually the figure for that, and all it is basically a pool of water with the tail coming out of it, which is what the beginning of Shin Godzilla was, if you remember that. So technically the Form 1 that they want us to know exists was just that tail sticking out of the water, and we don't know if there was a body attached to that under the water, but right now what I'm thinking is there might not have been. It could have just been a serpentine kind of Godzilla before it even had the chance to grow any appendages whatsoever, and I'll get into why I think that's interesting to think about right now here in a second. So we have that way, the way it could have looked, and now I'm thinking is just it could have been a serpentine object. So the tail at the end of the movie has always been an interesting topic of conversation without ever really knowing what's going on with that. But we are getting a diorama now that kind of shows what that looks like a little bit more in depth, with the basically large, not large compared to Godzilla, but large compared to people, the humanoid Godzilla human hybrids kind of growing off of it, and the confirmation that there really was at least a mouth underneath the tail. Nobody really knows what time that could have formed during the movie. All we really know is when the tail split open for it to have the laser, and that was the first time he was in hibernation. You get that one shot of the movie where his tail just kind of splits open before he ever actually regains activity later on. That could have been when that happened, but we don't really know if the mouth forming underneath the tail was during that phase somewhere, or if it happened after he was frozen in his little mutation that happens right at the end. But what I'm thinking now is, since we have the pictures of almost 2 Godzillas that could possibly be sequel ideas in the concept art, one breaking out of the top left picture is him breaking out of the kind of husk of the other one, and there being 2 because of that. On the right of that, we just have kind of like a picture of him frozen, and it looks like he's expanding. The bottom left is interesting, with a head growing out backwards of his head. And then the bottom right, the left side of that picture, is kind of like the Godzilla struggling to get out of the husk, with kind of like another head pushing out through the neck. And then to the right of that is there actually being 2 Godzillas side by side afterwards. And that's an interesting idea, is for the sequel, if we do have a Godzilla that breaks out of the husk and we have that Godzilla, and whether or not the husk survives and becomes our second Godzilla, or what I'm thinking at this point, and I don't really know if anybody else has talked about this yet, is I know a lot of people think that the tail could be like maybe kind of like a cocoon or something like that to harbor a new Godzilla. But what I'm thinking now is, what if the tail altogether falls off and we get another Form 1? Because if that Form 1 really was just a serpentine kind of object with half of it sticking out of the water like at the beginning of the movie, who's not to say that that doesn't happen again? Because there's already a mouth on it now, so that would be the head portion. What if the tail altogether falls off, returns to the sea and begins mutating, and that's our second Godzilla that grows over time, and then the original one breaks out of the husk, maybe at like a reduced size that can regrow or not. I mean, this Godzilla was the biggest in the first place, so it wouldn't be unreasonable for him to break out and not grow any bigger, kind of at just a reduced size, maybe a more traditional height if there is going to be that other one that grows from his tail. But I'm just thinking it would make so much sense at this point for that tail to basically become another Form 1 and start that evolution process again. It would obviously look different because it's under different circumstances, and with the way he looks, there's no way that there would ever be two that look exactly the same. So this could look like a different Godzilla. You'd be able to distinguish them apart, the original husk and then the secondary tail. But that's my idea. I mean, I like the way that people are talking like it could be a cocoon and that mouth is the beginning of the head, and but what confuses me about a lot of people's other theories is that it would break out of that husk and be a second Godzilla right away. How would that even happen? You would have like stick Godzilla. It would have to be ridiculously small or ridiculously skinny and just not work, which is why I think that the entire tail portion falls off and returns to the sea and grows. That's what I think, at least. I'm down for whatever. I don't even care. This universe is so messed up and interesting. I don't really care what they do if there is a sequel, because I'm sure that they'll think of something ridiculous and interesting, and I'm gonna love it regardless because I loved this movie, just how bizarre it was. But whatever way that the sequel starts, whether there's not two Godzillas, whether or not the humanoids are still there, whether or not the humanoids turn into Godzillas, who knows? I mean, there's so much like possible speculation on this that there's just not enough time in the day to discuss it, which is why I love this new Godzilla universe so much, is because there's so much up in the air for discussion, because there's no closed ends anywhere. Like, this movie could go in any direction because Godzilla is technically still alive. We just don't know how he's going to resurrect in the future if they do give us the sequel, which I hope they do. The movie was successful enough for there to be a sequel, and I know that it has enough attention from people. So, I don't know. That's just some quick ideas I had. I knew it was a little different from what other people were talking about with my idea that the tail could just fall off altogether and become a new Form 1, basically, because we did get that figure, or we are getting that figure that says Form 1 is just kind of like this serpentine tail coming out of the water. That's exactly what that would look like if the face was buried in the sand and the second half of it was sticking out of the water. That's exactly what it would look like to me. So, that's just my idea. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, what your ideas are, what you think about my idea, if you think I'm stupid or not. I don't really care. It's all crazy speculation. And let me know what you guys think of this cool concept art. There's a lot more of it out there, so you guys should definitely go check that out. But, hey, it's been me again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.